Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very important topic today. And that is what to do when relationships with narcissists or psychopath or toxic individuals, or feeling a constant state of social anxiety or difficulty really sort of getting into relationships, long-standing relationships, meaningful relationships, secure relationships with others as a result of past wounding. In other words, what do you do when you see it becoming a pervasive pattern? And how do you know, basically, when these relationships become a way of life? When conflict becomes a way of life? When this whole struggle, this up and down, this, constant regret and feeling like, here I go again. I'm just not able to move on. So it's kind of like you're rocking up and down, trying to get to healing, but you just seem to kind of go back, and then you put more effort and then you seem to go back. So what do you do when this sort of conflict becomes a way of life? But before we get started, I just want to give a super huge shout out to those of you who have recently made a donation to the channel. Thank you so much for your support to the channel and helping keeping the channel and the content alive. It is wonderful to hear from you. Happy, healthy, and healing holidays to you. It is a joy to be able to produce and create this content and have these sort of discussions as frequently as possible. So thank you so much for reaching out, and absolutely positively, if the channel, if we've been a positive influence and resource to you, please do feel free to participate at and donate at the PayPal Donate Now button here. I figured out a way to put it right here with the video. So thank you so much. And happy holidays. So we're zooming in and focusing in, what to really do when you find that this becomes a pervasive or sort of dominant theme in your life. When here I go again, what am I doing wrong? I don't seem to be able to feel happy. I don't feel content. I kind of, if I don't have a relationship with these troubling sort of people, or if I don't go back to them, I feel like I have nothing. And so, why do these relationships tend to present themselves again and again? In other words, why do you keep attracting this type of relationship and then this sort of pattern or this sort of disappointment, anger, resentment, guilt? Why do you keep defaulting back to these negative or disempowering emotions? It is to understand, that neurophysiologically, depending on when this type of relationship started, so it can be in your early life. I mean, like literally, your childhood, your teenage years, different situations made it, it was an ideal breeding ground for you to interact with narcissists or psychopaths or people who were antisocial, who were rebellious, who were rough, edgy, the bad boy, the bad girl, the wrong crowd, or perhaps just a low integrity organization or company, etc., where you found yourself just perpetually surrounded by these types. Or even in your, 20s, 30s, 40s, you find that you're perpetually around these people. Either these people are your family, your workplace, your community, your neighbors, and you just can't seem to get out of the rut. Why does this become a lifestyle? Why does this become an identity? Why do you feel like it's so normal to go back and then, to take this abuse and not be able to stand up for yourself when you feel that you have been wronged, that you've been betrayed, that you're still like a deer in headlights, that you can't really seem to be able to confront or assert yourself or live with boundaries and feel comfortable, or live with standards and feel comfortable? It's basically to understand that these conflicts represent a series of past events. And these past events were set up where you felt violated, traumatized, betrayed, rejected, abandoned. So, there was perhaps a very, instrumental, formative, influential relationship or event or series of events that you had experienced earlier in your life, and then you drew a certain conclusion from this. So your perception of the event, and perhaps, you were 5, 6, 7, 8, 13 years old. How could you have done better? How can you fault yourself for this? You were a child, you needed this parent. You were a teenager, you didn't know that this was going to happen. Even in your young 20s, people really, the amazing thing, a lot of people do not mature until they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And even then we see some people who have not matured and they're like, in their older age, and you're like, you're still like, the bad boy, the bad girl. You're just still playing those games. Like, doesn't that ever get tiresome? Don't you ever grow out of it? And it's to say that basically, that all these manifestations or these presentments are a reflection of this past event. They're basically a symptom of these previous events, which then develop into relationships, which then develop into a mood for you, a pervasive mood, a state of being, a way of feeling about yourself and then the world. And then you extrapolate or draw conclusions, and then you're in the same vicious cycle again and again and again. You find yourself in the same rut again and again and again. I mean, this can plague you for years until you put the foot on the brakes and you stop this pattern. And patterns can become very, very imprinted on the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is like your virtual hardwiring. I mean, your subconscious brain takes commands, and it will do whatever you tell it to, or whatever meaning or physiological response that you're looking to derive. It will give you that, i.e., sit around a fire and I feel warm and cozy. Sit outside in the freezing cold. I feel cold, damp, angry, frustrated. The acute stress response, you want to escape. And so the subconscious doesn't, think critically and think, well, should I change this or that? Or should I, think, how should I ask myself different questions to move forward? Your subconscious doesn't do that. That is the goal. That is the role of the conscious mind. So your conscious mind, that which reads, makes decisions, makes choices, is thinking critically, can I do this? Can I not do that? That is your conscious mind. So your conscious mind will then take orders from the subconscious mind. So it's very important to understand that there's these different levels going on. And so if you see yourself repeating this again and again, and it becomes a vicious cycle or a lifestyle, and you find that, you're not heeding, all the warning signs, you're not picking up on the lessons learned, you're not able to sort of take a break, a time out, and then change and modify yourself. Or if you are, you find that you're not making changes, rapidly enough. It's to understand that neurologically, neurophysiologically, you will set yourself up for conflicts, problems, situations where you replay the same physiological addiction that you were used to. So that's just like why an alcoholic can be like a dry drunk. In other words, they can replace one addiction for another. They can replace one problem with another. They can replace, they can basically sublimate, and they don't ever deal with understanding the cause, which has caused them to overdrink, be addicted, even to the point of denial, but, really self-sabotage and problematic living, problematic relationships. It gets very, very severe. It gets very out of control. And, they just say, I'm powerless over this alcoholism. And oftentimes it's this powerlessness, which is, I believe, a really important aspect of healing, is you have to say, what, I'm powerless over this. Like, I need to give it up to a greater cause, a greater being, and I need to understand and stop getting in my own way to stop the pattern. And so neurochemically, people then will recreate situations, relationships, events to keep this, addiction to disappointment, this addiction to isolation, this addiction to loneliness, this addiction to never being in relationships. In other words, everybody is untrustworthy. Nobody will ever love me. I will never be able to, trust myself. I will never be able to make it financially. I will never, I can't get out of this rut. Everybody, all women, all men, all teenagers, all bosses, all companies, all these like big sweeping statements. If you feel that you're thinking this, feeling this, and sort of that's your self-talk, it's to understand then that you are neurochemically addicted to this feeling. And your reticular activating system, which, causes you to find the same thing over and over and over in your environment, is just running your life. And you're not giving yourself a chance to fully utilize your full potential. So it's like, for example, if I were to say, think of the color green, and then think of a crayon, and then think of a fruit, and think of a vegetable, you're gonna think of green, or the opposite. You might be thinking of everything else. And that's your reticular activating system. Especially when you say, I don't, when you have this emphasis and it's backed up with this sort of infusion of anger and, it gets ugly. So there's this ugly sort of, vibe to that feeling. I don't trust anybody. I hate myself. I hate women. I hate men. Whatever the slang is that you're using, you're throwing these big blanket statements over your self-talk and finding that, your reticular activating system will constantly be drawing you to your fears. In other words, that acute stress phase that you had experienced early on is just replaying itself out again and again and again. You've never flipped the turn, you've never flipped the record. You've never, you've never changed the CD. You've never changed the 8-track tape. The same cassette is still playing. You haven't allowed yourself to change your self-talk. You haven't allowed yourself to change your neurophysiology. You haven't allowed yourself to allow. And you haven't permitted this because you've put up such a defense, a wall, a bracing, and you become neurochemically addicted to this. So your reticular activating system, see, I told you this would happen. See, I told you I'll never get better. See, I told you it was your fault. See, I told you things would never change. So you'll be looking for ways to reinforce that impassioned I told you so, that neurochemical addiction. And you will then, your reticular activating system, like if you say, don't think about the color blue. And then what do you think about? Don't think about, you're giving a command to your subconscious to pull up an image. And then that begins on your reticular activating system. And then you'll begin to, don't think about the color of blue. Don't think about any fruit. And you'll begin to say, you'll think of blueberries, and then, don't think of any places in the world. And then you'll beginning to your reticular activating system, and then it'll just be on this acute stress reaction, which is basically like the fight or flight, where you feel threatened and want to escape. So then people begin to isolate. They don't trust anybody. They don't look at anyone in the eyes, or they don't know how to do this in a balanced way. Or they have these social anxieties, these depressive episodes, these panic attacks. All these are, your neurochemical addiction trying to work itself out. So you do have to begin to say, okay, I can take the helm here. I'm comfortable being assertive. I'm comfortable with a balance in my life. I'm comfortable with one step forward and then checking in with myself. I'm comfortable when seeing when it's over the top. I'm comfortable when seeing if I'm taking too high-risk behaviors. I'm comfortable with saying no. I'm comfortable with not over-obligating myself. I'm comfortable with feeling good enough. Even though the narcissist didn't give me these messages, didn't give me this experience, didn't give me this feeling, didn't give me these skills, rather than hold them accountable now, I'm going to hold myself accountable now. So I'm not going to always put the blame on somebody who is toxic, narcissistic, or psychopathic. If you're doing that, you're betting on a loser. You're betting on a a no value proposition. You're not going to really move forward. You're not going to allow yourself to grow, even if it's an inch, inch by inch, it's a cinch, mile by mile, then you smile, but, yard by yard, it's hard, so understand these kind of, ways for you to gently take baby steps moving forward, and then being able to be accountable to yourself and engage and have a better judgment of who you can trust or who you should not trust. And if something tells you, well, you should be able to trust everybody and you should be able to put up with this treatment, then reevaluate that self-talk where it's telling you, well, maybe, perhaps, you were given the message that it's not right to vocalize your feelings. You have no right to be angry. So if you were told this, then you'll never be empowered enough. You'll feel guilty every time you get angry, you get fired up, you're assertive, you're asserting your boundaries or standards. Perhaps, you were punished, or perhaps, some very important people left you when you expressed your feelings or your emotions, and so you never do it anymore. So then you've stopped yourself. You just shut down that part of your human life. You're like, nope, can never express my feelings. Nope, I can never get angry. No, I can never communicate a negative feeling, in the right manner. No, it's, you cannot feel this. No, you just push it down. You must repress it. You must suppress it. You must, use some sort of sublimation. You must stuff it down. Just go buy something, just go eat something, go drink something, go vomit something up, go smash this, go do whatever. You've learned, instead of really dealing with it, you're just looking for ways to sort of vent it out, and you're not really sort of ever healing that situation. Or if you were taught that it's inappropriate for you to have, difficult feelings, anger, guilt, sadness, grief, anxiety, overwhelming feelings of violation, and you weren't able to sort of work through these. So you feel in the wrong for ever really sort of communicating these. And so you never communicate them. You just allow yourself to be walked over, and you don't ever know, how to stand up for yourself. You don't ever know how to be assertive. You don't know what a boundary is. You feel it's difficult for you to say, I need to take care of me and I deserve better. So that feeling of I deserve better might be difficult for you to live with, or live as a lifestyle. Like, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to feel positive. I deserve to travel. I deserve to have interests. I deserve to have a hobby. I deserve to have a job. I deserve to follow my dreams. I deserve to have a healthy relationship. I deserve to feel safe. Like, all these different things, they might not come up in your self-talk or your dialogue or what you really experience in your day-to-day because they were so forbidden. And it's like eating the forbidden fruit. If you were, God is going to come down from the heavens and strike you with a lightning bolt, or worse, you'd be condemned to hell, you would be fired, you would be ousted, you would be whatever your mind is concocting, so you never do it. So the mind is a great tool, but it can also, if you overthink and get stuck in these ruts where you feel like you're always sort of in the same place physiologically, neurochemically, literally and figuratively, you're not able to move, you're not able to feel or think of solutions, you're not able to confront yourself and then be able to live a freer life, it's because neurochemically you're playing that same loop and loop again for several reasons. So I feel it's very important for you in your healing journey, which is a process, which doesn't mean it takes place in 1 day, 2 weeks, It's an ongoing, but you will get stronger and stronger. And then more and more you'll be able to open up and then have that allowing where you can let people in. You can shut people out who don't deserve it. You can effectively handle things. You feel like you're not so isolated. You're not so lonely. You're not so shut out. You're not so shut down. You're not feeling so disrespected. You're not feeling so impoverished, emotionally or literally, physically or financially. You feel like you can say no. You feel like you can say yes. You kind of feel like then you develop more experience, and then the boundaries and standards really take place. They really take a stronger root within something very fertile. So it's to really, really understand that neurochemically, physiologically, this is a phenomenon which you can take the helm with. You can basically lighten up, but you have to have rigorous honesty and say, whoa, my isolation has gotten out of hand. My loneliness has gotten out of hand. My anger, things that you didn't want to own. A lot of people, well, I'm not really angry about it. I'm disappointed. They don't realize that actually, especially if you were abused in your childhood and you've been in denial, you might be kind of angry still. You might be angry at these people. And then that then taints, intoxifies your present, where then you have past resentments. You have future fears. You're stuck in that sort of, in that level. And so it's to work through then that anger at past events and say, what was meant to be. There's nothing I could have done to have changed that. That's where I landed. That's where it was. And there's a bigger reason why this happened. And I am meant to heal and forgive those people, God, I forgive God. I forgive these people. I forgive myself. You might need to say, perhaps, God, if there's a bigger purpose, please show me, and asking these right questions so that, you realize where the snag is, where the emotional snag has got you caught up, and you just keep getting snagged, getting, falling apart, getting angry, crying all the time, punching your hand through walls, sabotaging your job, sabotaging a good thing. All those addictions are basically, they're just a reflection of the past events where you were violated, betrayed, rejected, overwhelmed, abandoned. So that if you're heavily into addicted states that aren't serving you, that aren't serving you, like I'm addicted to being alone, like I'm addicted to disappointment, I'm addicted to anger, I'm addicted to blowing up, all these different things. These are direct reflections of these events where you felt traumatized, violated, betrayed, all those ugly emotions, which you basically need to work through. And you need to look at how they're then manifesting in the present and going, wow, I can see the correlation now. It's okay for me to understand how this has affected me. And, is my current state of resentment, is it holding me back? Am I still so resentful that I find I can't have relationships? Am I still resentful that I can't get a job? Am I still so resentful that I can't be a healthy weight? Am I still so resentful that my bank account reflects it? And so you have to kind of look at how these repressed emotions, how they can affect the present lifestyle, life identity that you have. And so it's really important for you to ask and understand these questions and become more assertive and to look at the correlation. And there are some questions that I feel are important for you to ask yourself. So you can kind of look at your self-talk and keep yourself out of these extremes. In other words, like when did these toxic types of relationships, when did this begin? When did this begin for me? When did, my bad choices, my bad decisions, feeling bad about myself, feeling bad about life, when did all this begin for me? Is there a specific event? Was there a specific person? Was there a specific, year? Was it a number of people? Was it one person? Was it in one place? Was it in several places? Was I mistreated in just this one situation, but I was okay here? You know, when did this begin? Who were the people involved? Who were the players? What was the setting? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? And then once you get a hold of that, then what is my interpretation of these events? In other words, what meaning did I extract from it? I'm unlovable. I'm ugly. I can't trust myself. I am untrustworthy. I am, undesirable. I am to be rejected. I am to be isolated. I'm to live in the basement. I'm to live in the attic. I'm to live on the street. You know, what is the meaning that you then extrapolated? I love that word. What did you draw from this experience? What was your takeaway? What did you pull out of it? What did you absorb? What did you absorb into you physiologically from that event? And, you know, what were the emotions at play there? What were some of the words? What were some of the feelings? What were some of the statements? And, you know, and then furthermore, what was my age? What was my, mental, emotional age? And what did I really need then that I did not get? And then you can kind of come up with these answers, and then you can see then, was it kind of contained to a couple of people? Did it spill over into other relationships? And then other people who you were drawn to? And that just kept on and on and on, and you didn't know better. You weren't hurting enough. It didn't get that bad until now you're like, whoa, something has to change. You know, now that I'm adult, now that I'm becoming an adult, now that I'm nearing, the middle age or end stages of my life, what can I work through now? It's never too late to heal. And then furthermore, then how did I then choose these sorts of role models in my life? How did I gravitate or prime myself for more of this? So, who were these angry or negative role models? How did they model life for me? What did they teach me about life? What did they teach me about myself? What did they teach me about how to live? What did they teach me about a lifestyle or a life routine? What did I pick up? What did I extrapolate? What did I pull out of sort of these individuals? And how did I furthermore then begin to, attract more of these types of role models? Did I have pictures, posters, magazines, news programs, movies, music that had these types of role models in them? So I reinforced and perpetuated this again and again and again to the exclusion of anything else, so that it really became hardwired, or my identity and my I am. And did they model or exemplify habitual, sort of chronic, really extreme behavior in this? So it became really severely imprinted on me, and I extrapolated a lot of information or a lot of sort of way to be about myself, or how I feel about myself, how I feel about life, how I feel about relationships, how I feel, man versus himself, man versus nature, man versus man, the three, that whole dynamic there. And do I then see a correlation with where I'm at today and my life that started from these events, these peoples, these situations, these words, these feelings, these looks? And then how does it sort of all kind of spike off? How does it infiltrate and affect how I decide, how I be, how I become? Right now, I mean, in the very, very, very present moment, even if you watch this video again in a week, again in an hour, how am I noticing that it's still affecting me right now? And to what degree do I like that? Or to what degree do I not like that? And then furthermore, to what degree then can I acknowledge and validate that and then change? I don't like the fact that I get angry all the time. I don't like the fact that I overeat. I don't like the fact that I'm unhealthy. I don't like the fact that now I'm, 350 pounds. I don't like it now that I'm the fact that I'm 70 pounds. I don't like the fact that I'm living in such and such a place, or I would, I have or don't have such and such. And addition to then, what has this then made me give up? To that I just don't even try anymore. I don't exert any effort, or the effort that I do, it's just wrong. Like I try too hard, I don't try enough. So I've got these sort of extremes. I haven't tested the waters. And then furthermore, now ask yourself, how can I now reprime my subconscious to then get into that allowing state and then feed myself positive images, role models, self-talk, meaning that is the polar opposite or the opposite of such, i.e. with warm and fuzzy feelings, positive I am statements, role models that I can identify with that are positive, that are healthy, that are happy, that smile, that aren't guilt-ridden, that aren't plagued with riffraff or all the other pejorative, definers that you have perhaps were as your other relationships we just looked at that were in the negative. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Love you. Thank you.